I'm going to introduce the next panel, which is really a conversation with the region's most active investors and some of the leading experts in that field. It's a panel powered by Berytech Business, Angel Network, and IM Capital. And it's basically all investors saying, what do they need and what do they require in order for them to get enticed and really maybe invest in your idea. And the moderator is a board member of the European Business Angels Network. His name is Marcel Drich. He is your moderator for this panel. Marcel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from today?
Well, I'm lucky. I'm under the sunshine of Aix-en-Provence.
Marcel, I'd say you're very lucky because we're in Beirut in the midst of a lockdown. I think Aix-en-Provence seems like a good idea at any time of the year, by the way, lockdown or no lockdown. You know, I started by introducing this panel and saying that, you know, we can never mention and we can never stress enough on the importance of investors, whether it's a startup, whether it's any idea that you're going to materialize. And I know today you're going to be presenting and talking to different investors that are going to be basically saying, what can they do and what are they looking for and how to navigate this pandemic? What do you expect from today's panel?
Okay, thank you very much for that segue. So basically what I'm expecting really, it's the heart of the conversation. It's around the entrepreneur mind. The guy has an idea. He's already went to the MVP stage and he's challenged to do two things: how to focus on his project and deliver on his vision in the first place. But at the same time, as any creative entrepreneur, he's really challenged in looking at the right investor. So be it a business angel in the region or a VC when he is doing the scale-up mode. So what my objective really is to introduce four great people here from VC background, from a business angel background, from the MENA region, and wanted to make sure to get that particular startup to see how he can be creative in talking to these people. So personally, I'm a serial entrepreneur, a serial intrapreneur. I come from Cisco after an acquisition of my startup. I'm an IBAN board member and the former president of Sofia Business Angel. So I'm really looking forward to the panel and making sure that the entrepreneur really focus on where he wants to go and talk to the right business angel in the MENA region. Did you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. So I'm delighted to be part of this panel. So let me introduce the panelists and take it from here. So we have Corinne Kiam, the investment manager at IM Capital, IM Venture. Welcome, my friend Corinne. I think you're based in Beirut, if I'm right. Is that correct, Corinne?
Very nice to see you again, Marcel.
Thank you. We have my friend Tarek El-Kadi. He's the chairman at the Med Angel. And I remember Tarek's vision for this particular region. 2 years ago, he went on embarking a fantastic initiative in making sure that the 550 million people around the 23 countries that has are based in around this beautiful region of ours called the Med. And today we are talking about cross-border investment. So looking forward to talk to my friend Tarek in a minute. Hi, Tarek. And then we have Bassam Falah. He's the Chief Executive Officer at Innovest Middle East. And welcome to the panel, Bassam. And we have... Thank you. And we have Maged Farag. He's the creative and managing director at 5DVR. And he is one of the serial entrepreneurs that is part of this panel. And I'm sure in his journey, although he tells me in his background, he did not need any investment money, which is a good way of doing your business. But I'd like to have his insight later on. So let's start up this conversation and make sure that when you are dealing with any question here, I really would love you to put yourself in the heart of the entrepreneur mind when he's being challenged to go and basically raise his first round, especially the early stage, the most challenging one. So ladies first, and it's always a pleasure to talk to lady first, I guess. Corinne, I have a question for you from a MENA perspective and specifically around the COVID-19 and the current economical challenge we have within the worldwide basis, but specifically in the MENA region. Could you share with us the current situation from a financing perspective, especially your outlook going forward, and especially cross-border investment? I really would love to have your insight. Where do you see it from a Lebanese perspective, and especially being based in that beautiful country of yours, challenged both from an economical perspective and both from a COVID-19? Could you share with us your insight, please?
Beautiful country of ours. I don't know, Marcel, but yeah, let's keep up the positivity. Let's keep up the positivity somehow. But unfortunately, Marcel, really, unfortunately, Corona is today, the least of our problems, and this is very sad to say. So today, October. Starting, October of last year, we've seen, the local currency devaluating more than 4x times. And then, you had the Beirut blast just on August 4, which, makes you rethink, the whole industry, the whole ecosystem. Coupled with Corona, it made a peak in Lebanon. So obviously, Corona, with all the problems that it has, Corona is a problem, and entrepreneurs are known to solve problems. So honestly, it's not this part that I'm worried of, because I think, that the good entrepreneurs are going to emerge because of Corona. They will be agile enough. The good ones will be agile enough to adapt exactly to what, Corona today is indulging us in. So when I talk only about Corona, I really focus on, what are the things that we should focus on from balance sheet perspective or income statement perspective in order for us, to make us survive Corona. However, today in Lebanon, the biggest problem is the local devaluation. Unfortunately, what we're seeing in Lebanon, we're that creative. So today we have a new local currency, which are, the dollars that are stuck at the local Lebanese banks, and they call it dollar. And, a dollar today, $1, which is, whoever had a dollar put in any bank in Lebanon for the past few years, this amount got divided by 3 today. So unfortunately, dollar and all this money that is being stuck at the commercial, at the local banks cannot be used nor to pay, marketing strategies, nor to pay your hosting, nor you to transfer outside. And here we're really focusing on, startup day-to-day business. So unfortunately, our pain is today over here. And, allow me to say, with all this negativity that I talked, so, you had the Lebanese revolution, which led into a currency devaluation. Then you had Corona that kicked off in Lebanon in March, to be topped up by the blast. Out of all those problems, one good thing came out of Lebanon, which is that today Lebanon is the cheapest place to set up a business. Why? Simply, so historically, $1,000, I'm going to just, take you through the details for the fun of it. Historically, you used to hire someone for $1,000, which used to be back at the time 1,500 Lebanese pound, 1,500,000 Lebanese pound. Today, this amount got divided by 3, and people are still touching the same. So salaries and OPEX, allow me to say, from a startup perspective, got divided by 3. So despite all the problems, if any startup can today sell outside Lebanon, this is a recipe for success, despite all the negativity that we're living in. So the need for cross-border is today a must more than ever.
Corinne, very, very interesting insight. I think the message that I got from you is the positive attitude. And the second thing is, when you say that the region is becoming cheaper to invest in, I think my advice there is really to make sure that the rest of the MENA region know that, because I know that you guys have a lot of creative talents from a development perspective. Personally, where I'm based, we always talk about Ukraine, we're talking about Ireland, we're talking about Poland, about Romania having cheap development resources. So why not encouraging the ecosystem in Lebanon to talk more through a Next Society, through IBAN Forum, making sure that your region is attractive to come and basically set up a business there. I think that's what I'm listening to.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you're totally right, Marcel. And from an I am capital perspective, the easiest for us as investors, nowadays is to stand still, to sit still and do nothing, and wait for a couple of years, not a couple of years, wait for a couple of months before the situation gets stable. However, at I am capital, we decided to do it completely differently. And today we're launching a $10 million fund, out of which I am, as a venture capital, will seed more than 50% of the amount, and is geared to invest in the best-in-class technology startups in Lebanon. So despite all the problems, we were always known for I am Capital and I am Ventures, which is our new entity, to be contrarian. So while all the investors maybe in town are trying to rescue their dollar and try to wait a little bit for valuation to stabilize, we decided to do it the other way around, and we're going full investment until December 2020.
Awesome. I think Tarek from MedAngel will be definitely a catalyst to see how the other, we have the Barcelona friends, we have the Portuguese friends around the Med, we have Sophia Business Angel in Nice, see how we can find a way of looking to help you raise that fund. And don't forget, my Lebanese diaspora friends, especially in France and in London, they're all over the place. I think the key to that is really making sure that everybody in your ecosystem know what you're doing. Thank you, Corinne.
Thank you, Marcel. Just one more point before I give to the other panelists. Other than investment, that we're known, that we've been known for the past 5 years, I would like to shed the light on a grant program. So this is when, an early stage, allow me to say a bold early stage VC decide to move a certain amount of money out of investment into grants just because of the Beirut blast. And, all those programs, that I would really like to think they're a little bit outside the box for a country like Lebanon, but that really shows, how, at least the faith that we have in the Lebanese youth.
Awesome. Thank you, Corinne. I think the whole idea around the MENA region, including Lebanon, it's how to be creative in keeping the talent within the country, because this is a fantastic opportunity to let the diaspora know that great things are happening in the startup ecosystem in your beautiful country. Thank you, Corinne. Thank you. All right, my friend, we're going to go all the way from Lebanon, a bit far away, to the UAE. It's not that far away, actually, Bassam. You're based in Dubai, if I understand right. You're based in Dubai, Bassam?
Correct. Based in Dubai.
Excellent. So it's a very interesting area that I'm very familiar with. IBAN is sending a delegation on December the 7th, 8th, 9th to GITEX Future Start. We've been always a key guest for 4 years now by the Chamber of Commerce and the World Trade Center. We're going to be in the Investors Lounge, and I'll connect with you offline after my question to see if you can connect my IBAN board members there. Okay?
With pleasure.
All right, Bassam. So you are leading the Innovest Middle East as the CEO over there in the UAE. And one of the questions is, I really want to ask you, because this is the question that people ask me, what am I looking for to invest? Is it the team? Is it the MVP? Is it the beautiful storytelling? Is it the business plan? Is it the go-to-market strategy? So I really would like to have your insight. What are those criteria that you're looking for from a project perspective before people basically says, hey, I want you to invest in us? And what do you do apart from money? So this is called the smart capital, I guess. So could you share with us where you sit? What are those criteria when you choose to invest in something?
Sure. So Innovest Middle East is an investment company. So we invest during either seed stage or during geographical expansion phase. All the lists that you mentioned, we look at, but we made it a bit simple. So our selection criteria is called V to the power 3. you want to try to guess what the letter V is? I'll give you a hint. The V is the same word 3 times. You want to try and guess?
The vision, I guess.
Okay, it's value. So it's value to the power 3. We look at the value proposition. Does the business solve a real problem, something that the market really needs? In many cases, we look for disruptive ideas, but in other cases, we just look at mere implementation of proven business models. So, for example, in Iraq, we recently invested this year in a startup called As-Saria, which is a leading.
We cannot hear you, Bassam.
Where did you lose me?
Yeah, awesome. You were talking about investing in a startup based in Iraq.
Correct. So we invested in As-Saria, which is a food ordering and delivery app in Iraq. This concept has been there globally in the region and even in Iraq. But why did we decide to go for it? Is we went for it because of the strength in implementation, which is key for us. Storytelling is important, but at certain stage, the walk has to catch up with the talk. So we looked at their technology, we looked at the founder's experience and the strength of their operation. On the other hand, in Lebanon, for example, we recently invested behind quite a disruptive idea. And that could be good news for Kareem because this shows that we still believe in a sector there's a big question mark on it, which is the real estate sector. So Kazabit is the first real estate crowdfunding platform in the region and in Lebanon. Some might think that it's not the right time to venture into such a proposition, but when you sit with the founding team and you listen to their proposition and how they bring it to life, at least they managed to convince us. So point 1 is, first V is value proposition. The second V is value creation. So we invest in startups that are not just looking for our cash injection, but are looking for our in-kind and value creation support. This could be the synergy with our existing portfolio. This could be access to the markets where we are present. So our strong foothold is in UAE, Saudi, and Iraq, and these are the main big consumption markets in the region. It could be bridging a knowledge or expertise gap. It could be leveraging on our network to reach certain opportunities. So that's V2. V3, and this is the most important V for us, or the most important value, is to have common values with the founder and the founding team. This is our number 1 priority, the synergy between the founding team themselves and the synergy between them and our team. Alignment in terms of business ethics, transparency, long-term view is extremely important for us. So these are the main criteria that we look at.
So could you give me an example, for instance, typically on the last investment you've done? I like the idea of the V3, by the way, 3 times the value, as you said. How about the team? How about the entrepreneur himself? What do you look for that kind of, happy face when he comes and they're very passionate and he try to pitch you at first time? Maybe he doesn't have even a team. What do you look for him in that? I mean, is it how many failures he did? Is it his charisma? I'm really kind of curious, Bassam, where you sit. Your hunch tells you, apart from the V3 that you spoke about.
Yeah. So I'm very critical on this point, and if I'm gonna start talking, it's gonna take more than the half an hour we have. But there has been lots of good storytelling founders that created what we call zombie startups that grew up and then they failed. So charisma is very important, mainly when one of the roles of the founder is to prepare for one funding round after the other. So he needs to inspire and needs to convince lots of potential investors. But charisma alone will take you not that far. Yeah. So we do our own due diligence. We go in deep dive discussions with the founders. As I mentioned, one of the startups that we entered in Lebanon, the Kazabet, the founder, he is a solid real estate investor. He wrote a book about real estate investments. We looked at his business model, the way he formed his team, his co-founding team. So all that gives us the confidence that this is the right startup or partner to spend our money, not only money, but our time and efforts with.
Excellent. The reason why I asked you a question is because at Sofia Business Angel 4 years ago, we had this smart Saudi from German university coming to pitch at us, but we didn't realize he's going to be the next Karim. So that's why, and he won our International Venture Academy first prize, and he was by himself. He was a doctor, PhD, and he was behind all the technology behind Karim. So that's why I was asking you a question. You know, sometimes one person can make a difference. Before you go to the next step. Thank you. And the reason why I'm asking that question is I'm looking at Majed being the only entrepreneur on the call, and Ahlan wa Sahlan, ya Habibi from Masr. The reason why I'm really interested to get a kind of an interesting insight from an entrepreneur. Yesterday we did our International Venture Academy for the first time in 15 years, remotely, virtually on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 3 very fantastic Finnish from Finland, a startup, all the way from well-being, health, e-health, to all the way to what they call critical communication, on the battlefield, as an example. So one of them was VR, and VR was an interesting subject because VR as a technology is across segments, and at the same time, we were giving some advice to one of the French VR company. Maybe they should look at verticalizing the content to go after either tourism or go inside Airbus or Renault in looking after the service or some technology to see all the parts, as an example. So I'm really looking forward to asking the following question. First of all, congratulations, because you're the only one that bootstrapped your company. Because
thank you.
One of my workshops, I always talk about, it's always great that you can bootstrap a company. But I'd really like to get you ideas sitting where you are. COVID is there. People are being challenged about meeting real customers out there. So what is your perspective for success despite what's going on around us? I mean, for me, where I come from, I always say crisis equal opportunity. And so I'm really kind of eager to hear your insight as an entrepreneur. What do you advise for all those entrepreneurs being challenged in the MENA region? My friend Tarek will be joining us shortly. Share with us, what do you advise them in this challenging time?
Thank you, Marcel. Well, again, it's definitely a great pleasure to be talking with all of you with such a great panel. So, like you said, it's always, the crisis equals opportunity. There's always an opportunity in every crisis. And, during my journey, I passed through like a bunch of them, different like financial crisis, things that are local to Egypt or in the region or all over the world. And again, there's always an opportunity. And one thing that has proven is that if you survive the crisis, you will come out much stronger and much more solid and much more, on solid grounds. So that's also another reality. When it comes to what you can do and what you should do when it comes to the time of crisis, there's no single book of, there's no the magic formula that you can do this to win that. It depends on a lot of dependencies. What's your markets? What are you doing? What are you dealing with? Like we were, there was the talk before our panel from Cinemox, I believe, the video on demand platform in Lebanon. So that came in their favor, like 100%, being at the right side of the equation of the business when the crisis happened. So that's luck more than, you know, anything that's like actively doing from the entrepreneur. But again, it's there are keywords to that. It's resilience, because again, an entrepreneur, if he's not or she's not resilient enough, I think that's a key quality, especially at the time of the crisis. I think you should know your options, see how you can, you know, I had chat actually when, you know, with some of my Lebanese friends and entrepreneurs, and my heart goes with them, because the situation that they're in at the moment, it's a combo. It's like, you know, like Corinne was saying, it's a mix of like Corona with the revolution, with the financial crisis, with everything that's happening. It's a very tough situation, I have to say. But you know, when I had this discussion with my friends, and now back to the investment, their main concern or their main point was, how can we raise investment in such times? But my question back to them, and my answer was, how can you create value? Like Bassam was saying, it's all about creating value. If you create value in your startup, in your you know, whatever you're doing, then the investment will come easily. The investment will come after you, rather than you running after the investment. So that's, you know, again, just my thoughts around that topic.
So I'll hold you, a fascinating discussion, Majid. I'll hold you there for a second. What do you think about when the push comes to shove, and you as an entrepreneur, you're kind of thinking about growth, you're thinking about customers, you're thinking about how can I expand in other countries. How about if sometimes you're pushed by things like having to rethink? I call that the reboot, the pivoting. Could you share with me if you know of such an experience when an entrepreneur, same idea, same technology, maybe he got it wrong on the marketplace, from a go-to-market strategy, and then he had to reboot, think straight, being resilient, and then do what they call a pivoting, just with the same technology. Did you have some experience on that?
Well, I can relate to myself in an extent, because again, we started with the multimedia and touch screens back in '94, which by definition, after a while, we should you know, move on. We should move on with the technology, and especially if you're working in an emerging technology in a developing country. So that's again part of the challenge that I've been facing. But definitely, you know, you have to ride the wave, especially when it comes to technology. You can't be fixed, or, you know, on a certain proposition or a certain solution. But after a while, the technology offers much more, so then you'll be outdated. So it's a continuous process that you have to keep adapting and updating your tools and your technologies to match with the current, and also with the users, because the users are now adapting to the new technologies. So if you introduce something that's not matching with that, you'll simply fall out of their preference.
So I'll hold you there for a second again, Majid, because you are an entrepreneur. Could you give me 2 or 3 words of advice to those entrepreneurs out there that are basically going through this local issues, be it COVID, be it economical, be it political? What would those 3 or 4 advice you can give them to go forward, regardless of the challenges?
Okay, so again, look for the value. Look for the value, and it's pretty much like the Sam has put it. It's the value proposition, what you can actually, you know, offer, and I think that's the key word, whether at the time of the crisis or not. But that's the key word. Resilience. Again, I see it like, you know, but not stubbornness. You know, there's, you know, like a thin line between being resilient and being stubborn. Sometimes you have to move between this and that, but again, it's if you believe, if you have the passion, if you have what it takes, I believe you'll do that naturally, more or less. You will just be driven by your passion.
Shukran, Habibi. Thank you very much, Majid. All right,
Marcel, can I add something to Majid, because I like combining letters into like.
Go ahead.
Because
we have 8 minutes to go, so you have.
Spoke about resilience. It's one word, resilience. I would add to it also, and I know Majid is like that from how he described himself. It's resourcefulness, and for bootstrapping, resourcefulness is so important. And I've seen the most successful founders are very resourceful people who can get value without having even the cash needed to get things done. So go ahead, sorry.
100%, can't agree more.
Thank you. All right then. I think Tariq is having a technical issue, so I've been pinged that I'm going to have a one-to-one with him on his question after the conversation here. So we have about 8 minutes to go. So here's an interesting question. Where I sit, I've been a serial entrepreneur. Most of my life, for 30 years, I brought the West Coast, round A, round B, a startup to basically come here into the European, Middle East, and Africa. And my hunch tells me to pick up the right ones. And the last one was acquired by Cisco. So I become an entrepreneur. From an entrepreneur perspective, what I found out is now I'm a business angel and investor. I'm a mentor at this accelerator called The Camp. And you can actually look at the link I've sent you, I think it was yesterday, thecamp.fr. And what's interesting about the accelerator, the guy who had the vision, he brought the 20 most successful European, but one, which I brought. So I convinced Cisco back in headquarters to come and do an open innovation program with the camp. And so they have what they call the first right of refusal by seeing what's going on. Mobility, sustainability, energy. There's a lot of interesting things going on there. So why I want to ask you a question, especially to Corinne and to Bassam, and then later on to Majid, is the importance as an investor to think about how can be a catalyst of bringing that first proof of concept to a corporate. That first testing of an idea with a Lebanese startup or with an UAE-based startup or Egypt startup to connect them. Either they are on a B2B to a bank in fintech, or they're going to cybersecurity to a particular company, or a telecom as an example. So I really would like to get you insights, especially I'm going to ask Corinne first to get that connection into the enterprise.
I want to apologize, but we're,
Berytech team all over the place. Hey, it's over.
We have 6 minutes.
I won't be able to answer you.
You have 6 minutes. I would give you 6 minutes if I had that time, but I don't have that time, unfortunately. Can we wrap it up with 30 seconds closing from each panelist, Majid, please, for us?
Excellent. So corporate, how important is corporate startup? So Corinne and then Bassam and then Majid. Very quickly.
I strongly believe, I'm going to be very concise, even if this should allow a long answer, but I strongly believe in the power of network. Today any P&L is composed from first base is the sales. You won't be able to make it without the right network. From operation perspective, from an OPEX perspective, I think everyone understood it from COVID. We should go really cheap in terms of expenses, but before. I don't think, I totally believe in the power of network, but I will stress, because this point was not mentioned throughout this call, the power of corporate governance, Marcel. What is more important than the network is to have a very strong board of directors who in their turn will open the doors for you. So that's how, if you don't have a strong board, for me, the startup will never become.
Thank you, Bassam.
Yeah, so I strongly believe in the role of corporations, but not to be limited to their CSR initiatives, where in many cases it is. It has to be deeply rooted in their operational model. It has to add value to them and add value. So I used to work in Nestle for more than 10 years, and they talk about creating shared value. So it should be an integral part of their strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. Majid, from an entrepreneur, it's going to be the last comment.
Okay, so I'll try to make it fast, and Tariq is joining, so maybe I'll leave the 30 seconds to Tariq. Maybe he can put his input. But yeah, to make it fast, again, you should know your options. As an entrepreneur, again, it's not only one channel. That now there's a lot of players in the ecosystem, so there's a lot of facilitators, mentors, funds that are going on different platforms on different levels. So there are definitely many options that the entrepreneur can think of and can put into action.
Excellent. So Tariq, apparently we are under time pressure. welcome to the call, and we're going to basically summarizing the call by asking you the relevant question where you sit with MedAngel and how important in your own vision these cross-border challenges that we have from an investment perspective in the MENA region.
So thanks a lot, Marcel. I think I'll be quick. Not sure if they squeezed the time to give me you and I some time to discuss or not, but Yumna, whenever our time's up, feel free to jump in. But anyhow, we missed you last week in our Techni Summit. We had like 13,000 people this year, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 online, and on ground we were, very safe. And I'm very proud of. Until now, we don't have a single case of COVID, so security and safety were really well. So anyhow, this all started last year when we were together. We launched the Mediterranean Business Angel Investors, and really excited about it, even though with COVID we cannot meet, but we're still in discussions. We're still holding roundtables. We're doing all the necessary connections between startups, investors, incubators and accelerators, so that we can have all the necessary people who can come together and find opportunities to scale throughout the Mediterranean countries. We're now 9 countries who are on board on the MedAngels. And the process is to, for everyone who does not know the Mediterranean Business Angel Investors, is to provide seed capital for early stage startups by facilitating deals between Mediterranean countries. And this is through syndication by cross-border investing. So we had a very successful model in between all angel networks in Egypt. We've closed more than 6 or 7 deals in the past year and a half alone in syndication. And we're replicating that across Med countries. So we see that as an opportunity for cross-border investment, as an opportunity for startups to scale, so that they can actually find access to capital, access to know-how, and access to markets throughout their network. So this is the whole process and how it works.
Excellent. The last question for you, my friend. Corinne was talking a lot earlier on with Bassam on the importance of networking. And one of the questions I'd like to ask you, the corporates, be it a bank, be it an industrial company, be it a telecom, what do you see the value of a business angel being there in the heart of the action in helping his portfolio companies to get connected to the corporates? Because as an example here, when we sit as Sophia Business Angel, we work a lot with Amadeus. Last question for Tarek, and we're done.
So, there are never enough questions, Marcel. We would have liked more time with you, and I personally would like to also invite you for an interview to actually continue this discussion and hear more about what you had to say, because I think there's a lot more to say. There's never enough time, especially when you have so many speakers, but wanted to take this time to say thank you so much, Marcel, for leading this discussion and talking about the importance of investments and the importance to attract and entice investors to basically make sure that they commit to these startups. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martha.